Hello and welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. We are going to discuss the astrological energies for the week of February 4th until February 11th as a very dynamic and highly active Aquarius season unfolds. And we just had the energetics of Uranus and Taurus stationing direct at 27 degrees, 27 minutes of Taurus on February 3rd. And no doubt about it, we have been feeling the effects and shakeups of this particular station direct. So I'm going to jump in to discuss these energies first, then we will move into what's unfolding over the week. And the reason why I want to start with Uranus and Taurus is because it is the ruling planet over all 5 planets in Aquarius right now. So it is even more prominent and significant. Now, there have been shakeups literally on the planet. We've had some very active earthquake developments, including a few in New Zealand, Iceland, Easter Island, Chile, and Central California. Now, the Earth is always moving and shaking, but with Uranus stationing direct in the Earth sign of Taurus, these can be more extremes and also more frequent. Now, when we look at the activity of the sun has also been very active over the past few days with 4 really strong solar flares. These were each X-class solar flares, which is the most intense type. And to have 4 in a short amount of time directly relates to the Earth's activity with these earthquakes, as well as what we are simply feeling in the energies around us and what our bodies are sensing and picking up. Now, solar flares are very large eruptions of electromagnetic radiation from the sun, and they will affect us more here on our planet when they are Earth facing. And so not all of these solar flares are Earth facing, meaning they could be facing away from our planet and not have as much of an impact simply because of how the sun is continually rotating. Another important thing about solar flares is that some of them last only for a few minutes and some last for a few hours. So the longevity of the solar flare eruption would certainly have an impact on its intensity. We are in a solar maximum cycle that continues on, and that means it is a phase when the sun is its most dynamic and extreme. So in other words, we've been dealing with these solar flares and these incoming electromagnetic energies for multiple years now, but they are intensifying and happening more rapidly. And so it's important to know when they're occurring so that you can depersonalize anything you're experiencing or feeling. Meaning the energies are coming perhaps from the sun, or you could be picking up on these very disruptive frequencies that are affecting your mood. Perhaps you have a headache or you feel really exhausted, really tired, brings about disrupted sleep and a more difficult time in regulating our nervous system. So all of these are effects that we feel because we are energetic beings. This energy travels at the speed of light, and they can make us more aware of our own energetic frequencies when we're moving through these symptoms. Then in addition to these powerful incoming light codes and fresh from the sun neutrinos, we've also had the disruptive influences of Uranus in Taurus stationing direct conjunct Algol, which is a fixed star in the late degrees of Taurus, 93 light years away from Earth, and it's traditionally connected to the most dangerous, violent, and tragic energies. It is about decapitation, death, fall from grace, demonic energies even. And in Greek mythology, it represents Medusa's head. Algol is actually a 3-star system. So there's 3 stars that compose it. And that's why some people believe that bad things happen in 3s, since Algol is about misfortune, chaos, death. You get the point. And it's important to discuss these matters because I know that there are people who don't want to believe in the darkness or who don't believe in certain influences, but it's all a form of energetic manifestation based on intention. And so it's not about a belief system. In fact, people will say, well, I don't believe in that. Or they'll turn it around and say that, well, that happened to you because you believe in that. And it's like, that's not how it works at all. In fact, it's about the wisdom of understanding energetics and the full spectrum of how people work with them, manipulate them, and play with them. It's also why it's very important to stay energetically protected, to do your own clearing and grounding practices in light regularly, Similar to your physical hygiene, you want to have energetic hygiene, where you are intentionally infusing your auric field and everything in your reality with the highest possible frequencies, light, and protection. And just like hygiene, you have to do it regularly. You've got to tend to it and take care of it. And so these can be good things that you do in the morning, at night, before you go to sleep. Anything that's a clearing influence, even sage, Palo Santo, visualizations, intentions, all of that matters. All of that supports your energy being pure, strong, and light filled. And it's important to have those practices simply to keep away anything else that would try to intrude on you for whatever means. So yes, these things exist. Some people turn a blind eye or they don't want to acknowledge them. To each their own. Everyone gets to choose. But to judge other people or to think that you're superior because you don't believe in these kinds of energetics doesn't mean they don't exist. And we're at a time with human consciousness rising that we have to be aware of the full spectrum of energies and what is manipulated and used. So then on that note, let's talk about what occurred over the weekend with that Leo full moon, where a grand expose in the light of the Leo full moon revealed celebrities, leaders, influencers, politicians, members of royalty, and other public figures were in the spotlight in black and white evidence documentation around what has been happening on the planet for a number of decades. This brings about a lot of cognitive dissonance for people. It brings about a lot of shock and disbelief. It can be hard for people to understand what is going on. I believe that this directly relates to how there has been a lack of integrating the shadow or misunderstanding some of the darker energetic manipulation practices that exist on this planet. And so this was a time of bringing all that to light. I also think it's notable that this Uranus stationing direct conjunct Algol is squaring the USA's moon in Aquarius at 27 degrees. So the shock factor is amplified, and there is even more to come because of the upcoming Aquarius solar eclipse conjunct the USA's moon in Aquarius. So we are in a period of time of heightened revelations around those who believe they were untouchable, who would not be held accountable, who didn't think there would be any consequences. This relates directly to the control, power, and manipulation tactics that have been on the planet for years, and how this is a time when all of that is meant to come crashing down. It can't be kept in the dark. What has been in the dark comes to light, and that is right on time in this cycle, as well as in humanity's progression, how we're meant to evolve now to be more aware, more astute, and to not blindly follow people. Because as Neptune is now no longer in Pisces, now Neptune in Aries is asking you to pay attention to what is going on and to not discredit it or falsely give your power or energy to anyone else, which would have been Age of Pisces programming that we're also moving away from. So the shock and awe will continue. There will be more that comes to light that is uncomfortable. This is horrible stuff. This is tragic, heartbreaking revelations. And there's a lot of emotions that come up with that. And so part of our responsibility is to manage it for ourselves, to be responsible in how we take care of what is arising, and to look at others in new eyes. To look at that deep unconscious programming that we have idealized others or thought they were special or thought they had access to something that made them better or more powerful. That is the programming that we are undoing, and we are starting to see each other in a whole new way based on our authentic nature, our soul gifts, our humanness, our empathy, our ability to be empowered individuals who integrate the shadow, who fully own all energies and emotions that move through you without thinking you have to present it in a certain way. And so this is a grand cycle of change that is moving us into a new understandings of each other. And it's been a very big part of this Uranus and Taurus stationing direct, and will continue with the upcoming Aquarius solar eclipse that is on February 17th at 28 degrees, 50 minutes of Aquarius, also squaring this Uranus and Taurus. squaring Algol and conjunct the US moon in Aquarius. So we've definitely been talking about how big February is, and that's because it is meant to be a world-changing month that ultimately leads us forward through the chaos, shocks, cognitive dissonance, and craziness that's on the planet. Now, over this next week, we're going to see Venus in Aquarius and Mercury in Aquarius make squares to this Uranus and Taurus and then enter into Pisces. And as they do so, there's more of a calming influence as a planet moves into Pisces. And then we also want to retreat to contemplate, what the heck was that? What in the world is going on? How do I feel about all this? What do I need in order to process this fully and allow it to flow through me? On February 4th, Venus in Aquarius sextiles Chiron in Aries at 23 degrees. This is a lovely influence for anything you need to discuss with a friend, sister, partner, or someone you care about. This is a time of reconnection and enjoying things together. There can be ease and harmony with the sextile. The sextile is a very light influence, and with Venus especially, it can just feel like things are more pleasant, more harmonious, and that something is being repaired. That is part of the connection to Chiron and Aries. But because it is such a light influence, it's easy to miss the sextiles, especially with the faster moving personal planets. But it could simply show up as an enjoyable lunch with a friend or a pleasant development of some kind that feels good. There can also be confidence and renewal with the sextile between Venus and Chiron. Then on February 5th, Mercury in Aquarius squares Uranus and Taurus at 27 degrees. More shocking announcements, which is basically just the typical way we live life now. But the square between Mercury and Uranus is interesting because Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. So Mercury is the human mind, how you personally think, communicate, process, and understand. And Uranus is the collective mind, a universal intelligence that connects with the higher understandings and higher consciousness that is meant to stream in to our little human brains. So when there's a square here, there's a jolt of breakthroughs, understanding, problem solving, and changes. This is where something could happen out of the blue that sets you off on a new trajectory. This is where you see something for the first time that you previously missed. It changes the plans, it changes the project, or it's a surprising communication that comes through. This is also going to directly impact transportation and communications. Those are some of the big areas of this particular aspect. These are collective experiences. So for example, another social media platform could be down, and it seems like those have been happening more often lately. Also important to note that this Mercury in Aquarius is now moving across the Aquarius solar eclipse point. So that means we are getting some messages around what the changes will be that February 17th solar eclipse ushers in, which also includes the beginning of the year of the fire horse. So this is a week to be aware of what has more energy for you and impact, because this could be the universe saying this is important, and you're getting a mental heads up on what the Aquarius solar eclipse is going to change for you. So late degrees of Aquarius are important right now as Mercury and then Venus moves across this point, each one having a square to that Uranus in Taurus, and also bringing energy to the eclipse point. In fact, you could have two heads ups this week as Mercury moves across 28, 29 degrees of Aquarius, and then Venus follows on February 8th and 9th. So the universe is giving you a heads up, insights, incoming revelations and messages around this eclipse, and Mercury and Venus are the carriers of those energy codes. Now, after Mercury has that square to Uranus and Taurus on February 5th and moves across that upcoming solar eclipse point, Mercury then enters Pisces on February 6th and stays in Pisces until April 15th. Now, I just did a podcast episode for you on Monday discussing the effects of this long voyage in Pisces and how it's going to give us more time to review, reflect, internalize, and process what we've been moving through, what we really feel. This can be a time when you just seek more quiet, more detachment. You want to be left alone. You're looking to do some things on your own in order to have more time and space for whatever you're reviewing. There's also an invitation here to enter into a deeper relationship with your intuition, to allow yourself to integrate more of those messages into your mind and decision making, as well as to allow these higher frequencies in Pisces to calm and settle anxiety, stress, and worry. Also uncertainty and overwhelm. So the more that we can actively work with these energies from a place of empowered choices, the more you may find you have new solutions and ways of navigating through this heightened cycle of change. So Mercury enters into Pisces again on Friday, February 6th, where we just want to exhale, take a break. I don't want to think about anything else. One thing on my mind is, of course, taxes, and this could be an interesting tax season with Mercury in Pisces for an extended amount of time. The retrograde starts February 26th and lasts until March 20th. So keep in mind that depending on your tax filing, is a year to get taxes done sooner than later, especially if you have those corporate taxes due March 15th. But Mercury will be in Pisces now until the tax deadline here in the US. So this is just my courtesy heads up that it's a year to double check everything. Expenses, details, mileage logs, deductions, all of it. Because Mercury in Pisces means that things will be missing, forgotten, or overlooked. Then on February 8th, Venus in Aquarius squares Uranus in Taurus at 27 degrees, bringing about surprising developments and new levels of awareness in Venus-ruled matters. So this can relate directly to your creativity. It can bring in bursts of insight and new ways of doing something. There can be exciting breakthroughs, revelations, developments. This is actually an aspect where they're in mutual reception. Venus in Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. Uranus in Taurus is ruled by Venus. So they have a nice little mutual reception dance going on here. And yet Venus is going to be feeling it more powerfully simply because she is the personal planet. And just like I mentioned with Mercury, Venus is now moving across that upcoming solar eclipse point as well. So there's going to be some important revelations around what you value and need going forward. And that's because Venus in Aquarius is focused on the future, what you are moving towards, developing, building, what is inspiring you in your life at this time. And in fact, that would be a really important question to ask yourself as we move through Aquarius season. What is lifting you higher and allowing you to focus on your next level manifestations and dreams? And this square from Uranus is going to bring in some things that you might realize that's not as essential as I thought it would be. Or there could be some liberating understandings around what you've been holding and you're wanting to set yourself free. There's a personal liberation influence here. And again, that is in play too with this Mercury that will square Uranus. So look at what you're ready to offload or get rid of. Look at how you're open to change, because this square is asking us to release our fixation on something looking a certain way, where it doesn't have to play out exactly as you think it will. In fact, it probably won't. But where can you allow more of that universal intelligence of Uranus and Taurus to break apart what you've been grasping or holding on to, thinking it needs to be a certain way? Now, this isn't new, because Uranus has been at 27 degrees of Taurus since last May. And it's important to look at how a vision, ideal, personal value, and way of life has been evolving since then. And these planets in Aquarius want to take it further, want you to go higher or go beyond what you thought was practical. So this is going to be an interesting week of what you thought was clear and certain is going to have some shocking developments that open up the vision. And I feel this too as a very strong creative influence, which can help if you have anything that's been stuck or it hasn't have much of a life force to it. This week, you might feel that there's a surge of incoming energies that get things moving. Then we're going to see Venus enter Pisces February 10th. Venus loves being in Pisces. This is where she is exalted. And I find that this is going to be a more calming journey for Venus in Pisces this year because if you'll recall, last year she had her retrograde in the late degrees of Pisces and she had numerous ongoing connections with the North Node, Saturn, and Neptune, all in Pisces. So last year, again, that was last January, February, March, April, Venus was traveling between Pisces and Aries. And so this could be a good time to reflect upon what has been cleared out for you since Venus was last in Pisces, because now she enters Pisces February 10th, and I think she's going to feel much lighter, clearer, and purer. She's closed out some very intense karmic and spiritual lessons. She has allowed herself to evolve into higher states of self-love, self-acceptance, self-confidence. She feels more fully integrated and even closer to her soul. So I offer that just as things to ponder for yourself because I feel that, again, this Venus entering into Pisces from February 10th until March 6th is going to get the break and downtime that she didn't have in the last cycle. And so you might find that you have some fascinating new levels of awareness around what you were clearing out last year. And now, 1 year later or so, you see it with new eyes and in a new way. Venus is exalted in Pisces, and she is much more artistic and creative. She has a lot of empathy. She's idealistic and romantic. She is seeking to understand with compassionate eyes more of who she is in this life, what she enjoys, and what she wants to call into her everyday experience to simply play with and ensure that she's bringing pleasure, love, and beauty into her life. And in fact, that could be a beautiful intention for Venus's journey through Pisces this year. Where are you willing to live with more trust and faith, with that deeper connection to your soul, with more of the receptive energies as well? There is a quiet, softening influence that we'll be feeling more readily with both Mercury and Venus entering into Pisces. It's a bit like escaping a very crowded, loud, talkative living room and retreating into a softer bedroom or the stillness of a library. Seeking that type of escapism that allows you to hear your own energy, calm down anything in the nervous system that's been too active and too overloaded, and providing more of a desire to be in sacred space. So this could be a week where you consider, what does sacred space look like for me, realistically and practically in my life? How often do I go into that energy and allow myself that downtime? Because not only are we going to need it even more throughout this year, it's an important way that we take care of ourselves and remember what is essential. So many things are moving quickly now. There's a lot of noise, a lot going on, and it's going to continue. So when you come into your sacred space, what is waiting for you that is eternal, timeless, loving, supportive, and nourishing? And this is energy that we can intentionally curate within ourselves. This is something that we can make a priority because it keeps you grounded and clear in what this life is about for you, specifically what this phase of life is about for you. So again, we will have the calming influences of Mercury and Venus entering Pisces this week and inviting you into more of your soul's messages and how to care for your energy from a loving, empathic place. Then on February 11th, the sun in Aquarius will sextile Chiron in Aries at 23 degrees. And this sextile with the sun has a little bit more energy to it than the sextile between Venus and Chiron. The sun is going to bring to light a solution, remedy, or medicine that supports your healing and allows you to move forward. That sun in Aquarius is connected to the future frequencies of what you are experiencing and creating. And so the sextile to Chiron offers a helping hand and says, here, try this, here, use this. Or remember that this is what works for you. Remember that this is something you have access to. And the reason why I'm saying remember is because Chiron in Aries has already been at 23 degrees here. It was at 23 degrees of Aries last year, and it won't return to this degree point again in the cycle. So this is energy you're already connected to. There's some type of answer, understanding, compassionate viewpoint, or healing approach that you're already aware of, that now the sun in Aquarius is saying yes to. This fits, this works. I'm going to bring this in and use this now. So this can be a very friendly energy. This can certainly help with anything you want to repair or fix. This is supportive for anything you have been healing or moving through that has been especially soft or vulnerable. That sun in Aquarius brings in robust strength and mental clarity that you can use and implement. This also helps with anything you're looking to do on your own. And maybe you're feeling ready to be more independent around something in your life, that you've been thinking of making a change or taking a risk. And when the sun sextiles Chiron on February 11th, the pathway is more clear and it can be a yes. Yes, I'm ready to take this step forward and to do this on my own. So this certainly helps with anything that you've been considering or pondering. You might find that this is the week that you make some moves and move it ahead. So basically this week we have a lot of movement and energy in the third decan of Aquarius, specifically 23 to 29 degrees of Aquarius, as Venus, Mercury, and the Sun continue through this part of your chart. Then we also have the power point here of Uranus and Taurus at 27 degrees, continuing to shake the earth, shake our frequencies, and shake up the status quo so that deep, permanent change occurs. Uranus does hang out at 27 degrees of Taurus until March 11th. So this is going to continue to be a big point of activation. Remember, it squares the USA's moon in Aquarius, and the moon in Aquarius is the people, the public, the group, the population. The founders of the US were Freemasons who are astrologers. So this was known to be an intentional creation of the country that would have that moon in Aquarius. And as I mentioned previously, the upcoming solar eclipse is conjunct the moon, and then Mars will be moving across the moon. This will show up as changes in the housing market, real estate, land ownership, currency, money, financial markets, interest rates, economics. I know we've been talking about this for a while. Of course, there were huge crashes over the last weekend with the Bitcoin crash and gold and silver taking a significant dive. Taurus relates directly to resources from the land, which includes anything that's mined. So gold, silver, lithium, coal, oil, and on the list goes. Uranus in Taurus is shaking up all of these land-based resources. There has also been a push here in the US to secure critical minerals and to stockpile them. China is also known for being dominant with mining, with a strategy to dominate rare earth mining and minerals. So this is an area of power that is part of Uranus in Taurus dynamics right now. It relates to different strategies, alliances, allies, and allegiances. And so the bigger question is why? Why is it so important? Why is it so essential? Well, the answer is actually related to galactic developments, galactic alliances, and what is being developed and built for both off-planet and on-planet agendas. This also relates to what is at the bottom of the ocean, and there are many minerals and resources at the bottom on these seabeds where a lot more deep sea mining is happening. In fact, I think about how that relates to Sedna previously in Taurus, because Sedna relates to what happens in the depths of the ocean, the levels of intensity and emotional transformation that occur. It's all part of her archetypal story. I've done a number of podcasts for you on Sedna, but Sedna was previously in Taurus from about 1965 to 2023. And so she was bringing more of our attention and consciousness to the long-term effects of environmental impacts, resources, materialism, consumerism, including what is found deep within the ocean and how those resources are being used. Now, Sedna is in Gemini. Uranus will enter Gemini here soon, but Uranus is bringing about the shocking realizations of what's been going on in certain industries that perhaps have been hidden or secretive, or we just didn't know this was important. These were important resources that many countries are calling dibs on. And then we bring in the galactic influence, where a lot of countries are in conversation and communication with the galactics. They have been. Those are part of undercover stories. And I know that sounds wild, and some of you might not understand what the heck I'm talking about, but this is part of the awakening here on the planet, especially over the next few years, is the influence of various galactic beings and energies who are supporting humanity's evolution and growth. And then there are the ones that are more selfish, that are here for more of their own gain and agenda. So you have a variety of intentions, but there are many U.S. leaders and governments who are already in contact and have been in communication with these beings through various means and experiments. And that's part of what we're going to see coming out here more publicly in 2026 and 2027. So it is certainly not a boring time here on planet Earth. Coming up on Friday, I'll discuss more of the Aquarius solar eclipse energies, some things to be aware of and to look at in your chart. With this particular solar eclipse, the energies are so big and dynamic that it's less about exact prediction and more about general understanding that there will be fast-moving global changes, collapses, combustion points, people leaving, leaders who are no longer in their positions. There will be individuals and groups of people who are no longer important or influential. We're already in that cycle now because we're moving away from who we consider role models, who we consider just and fair leaders, and who we want to be representing the people or groups at all levels. So not only bigger collective levels, but smaller local levels. So you could see some changeovers, for example, in your HOA or in your apartment or condo complex with those who have been in charge of things. We're going to see more changes in schools, charities, humanitarian agendas. We're going to see more people leaving their positions, whether they have been disgraced or they choose to step down and step away, because the energies right now are not going to support those who are only operating from a selfish or duplicitous position. There is more of a requirement for people to be honest, straightforward, and truthful, and that includes maybe the parts of ourselves that aren't so pretty or aren't so desirable, but at least that's real. At least that's honest. That is what we're looking for, because more than ever, we know when something is off. We know when things don't connect, when there are those false masks, false prophets. You can't talk your way out of things. You can't keep lying to people and expect them to keep buying it. And that's what we're going to continue to see throughout February. Also keep in mind, more people are going to go to extremes to maintain their position, their stance, their lies, and their agenda. So more people are going to ramp up what they already know because that's all they know. And so the universe is asking them to evolve and awaken. And there are individuals who just aren't going to do that. They're going to be pushed up against the wall to change. And if they don't, if they consciously don't, the collapses happen rapidly. The downfalls will be drastic. Things will be over Monday morning. If something happens over the weekend, they're cut off. They're done by Monday. I mean, that has been happening all this week with many notable people. That comment section is brutal. There's some people, they just turned off their comments and just have auto posts going. Is that going to fly? Is that going to be acceptable? Over this last week, some people have lost millions of followers. Others are just turning a blind eye. They don't want to deal with the public attacks. So however it's being presented or however it's coming across, what's happening is that more is being seen for what it is, and more of what's been done behind the scenes is coming to light. Deepak Chopra are moving into a cycle of new leadership on the planet and across multiple industries, businesses, niches, and genres. We are moving forward with a very strong understanding that this is all a part of humanity's evolution and certainly a part of the upcoming Saturn-Neptune conjunction on February 20th at 0 degrees, which is the first time this conjunction has happened in over 6,000 years at the very beginning of Aries. So there are significant changes that are right on time as we are being empowered to create our new reality on this planet that doesn't include these dark, horrible, behind the scenes energies. That's part of what is being initiated as the rebirth in this cycle. So we will keep talking about that as we move through the dynamic energies of February. If you are in my 2026 Soul Growth Astrology program, you might want to log in and check out what's coming up for you with the February 17th Aquarius solar eclipse. You'll also get a heads up on the first Mercury retrograde of the year that starts February 26th. If you would like to join this program, please come over and dig in to the main astrology of this year. This program is developed so that you can track these ongoing transits in your own chart. It is essential to understand the 4 basics of astrology: astrology signs, planets, houses, and aspects. These are all the fundamental building blocks of astrology, and once you know them, you can check out how the transits are unfolding in your chart. I go through the 3 Mercury retrogrades, all in water signs. We have eclipse season coming up, plus, of course, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction this month, and Saturn returning to Aries on February 13th or 14th. Depending on your time zone. Later on this year, we will have a Venus retrograde and the second Venus star point. So there's a lot of information here that is designed to help you understand more of your own journey in this cycle and to also expand your astrological knowledge. So if you use coupon code NEW, you can get the Soul Growth Astrology program for a discounted price of only $44. And it's designed to be something that you come back and reference throughout the year. So buy it once and come back often to check in and see what's happening for you. I'll put the info below the podcast as always, but I wanted to mention that since February is such a big month for us. So I will see you back here soon. I'll be back with another episode on Friday. Wishing you a beautiful journey over this week in Aquarius season. Take good care, and I'll see you soon.